Good morning, everybody. I'm Tyler, this is MochaMame. Thank you for checking out part 2 of the Elegoo Neptune 2S assembly and first print video. In this video, we're going to go over how to prepare for and run the first print. Okay, so it's a new day, but still the same shirt. There's a few things that I've noticed since the last time. One is the table is not balanced, and maybe it said so in the instructions to fix this at the very beginning, but since I only looked at the pictures, I may not have noticed. Please read your instructions. Secondly is on the back side I changed my mind and I decided I want to tighten these two nuts up here, and also we need to tighten the coupling down here. And again, we need a different size hex to do this. So I'll tighten this up at the top. And tighten the coupling. To fix the problem with the table, we need to adjust the pulleys underneath. There's two pulleys that are regular and two pulleys that are eccentric, same as when we're adjusting up here. It's a little bit difficult to reach. Maybe I could not do it on camera. So we need to adjust these two over here until they're tight, easy to move, but none of this wobble. The easy way to do it maybe is to lift the bottom of the table, then turn the nut until it's tightened. Okay, now this side is tight. Loosen it a little bit, then slowly try one more time. We want it to be just perfect. We don't want any extra tension. Okay, that side is just perfect. Now over here, we've got some play still on this one. So let's try the same thing. Okay, so now it's tight. Then again, loosen it a little bit. Then slowly tighten it again. Okay, now the back side and the front side have almost no play. Okay, now there's no play on front and back side, so we should be okay. Now, regarding the bundle of cables back here, at the moment I'm not going to do anything, but I can see that this cable is going to be a problem and make contact with the bed leveling gear. And up here, this cable is dangerously close to the lead screw. If we're moving, that's no problem. Yeah, it's going to make contact. So we need to somehow put this over to the side here. Would be maybe good. No, that won't be good because we have to work. Okay, so somehow we should tie this down here. Then there's one hole open over here, so it should be possible to take this bunch of cables later. And then tie it up here. But actually what I think is this is a good first or second project, and we can print out something a little bit better to help cable management. Hopefully we haven't forgotten anything. Let's try to turn this on one more time and see if we can home it. I think maybe you can't see this on the camera, but we're going to push the tools button. Then from tool we have the home button. Then from here we can choose to home one axis at a time or all the axis. Probably one axis at a time is better, but it's more fun to see all the axes go. It's going to move until it hits the limit switch. If you hear any kind of grinding or something, you need to turn power off. Maybe you didn't plug in the limit switch correctly. This is bad. Here we see it's touching the table. And probably the reason for this is that the table hasn't been adjusted properly yet. We need to lower the table down a little bit or raise the limit switch up. Okay, actually what I've noticed is that only this side of the table is not adjusted correctly. Everything is a little bit tight, but this is 100% loose. So I'm just going to tighten this side up a little bit. I'm just looking at the screws, how far down below the gear they are. Then I'm also going to raise the limit switch up about 1 or 2 millimeters. The instruction manual says to put 5 millimeter space under the limit switch mount. I'm going to put 7 millimeters, and then we should have enough clearance. The picture also shows that the limit switch is all the way pushed up on the slot. I'm not sure whether we should focus on the picture or read the words. So now with this adjustment, we should be able to home safely. Let's try again. Okay, so we were able to home, and if we look closely, we'll see that the nozzle is not going to touch the bed. We need a little bit of a gap is good. So next, let's start with the basic bed leveling. So just turn the power off. Then we'll move the nozzle over to the opposite side. And just make sure that we have about the same gap. If it's touching, we need to adjust it before moving on. Then move the table forward. Check that it's okay. Now here on the opposite corner I'm touching, so I'm going to adjust this a little bit. And now we have roughly the same amount of gap on all four corners of the bed, so we can try leveling with a piece of paper or a metal feeler gauge. It says here in the manual we should level about 0.1 to 0.2 millimeters. Just to give you an idea, if you don't have a feeler gauge, then this quality control triangle that comes with the printer is, depending on how tight you push, about 0.22 to 0.19. So if you have nothing else, this could be the maximum distance possible. If we take the instruction book, one page of instruction book is 0.1. So now I've realized that my calipers are actually no good. triangle is 0.26. Piece of paper is 0.8. Just a regular piece of paper, 0.6. So I think you can safely use a regular piece of paper folded twice. Maybe it's a bad idea to try to use the quality control triangle. What we want to do is go into the tool menu again. Then this time we're going to push the leveling button. We don't need to do homing first because it's going to home automatically. Here we have an option of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points. So we start with point 1. Now it's going to home. It homes the Z-axis a couple times to make sure it gets a good position. And now it moves to the first point. Now what we do is we take, I'm going to use the piece of paper, folded once. We take this paper and we just gently put it underneath. And the point is we should not push down on the bed. If we push down on the bed, then we're going to get a strange leveling. So just gently put it under, don't rest your hand on top, and then we need to turn the gear until when we move this paper back and forth, we can feel a little friction from the nozzle. Okay, now there's just a little bit of friction on the paper. If you find that the tension on the spring is too loose, then what you may want to do is lower your limit switch a little bit. So the manual said 5, I put it to 7, then I switched mine to 6 millimeters actually. And it seems just about right. Let's go to position 2. The important point is try to get all 4 corners having about the same feeling when you move the paper back and forth. Okay, now we got the 4 corners finished. Let's go to point 5. Now point 5 is the center. It should be correct. It's difficult to get the paper under. Let's try one more time and put the paper under before the Z-axis goes down. I feel like it's a little bit tighter compared to the corners, but it might be okay. Looks like we're finally ready to try the first print. I've got the machine turned off now, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the SD card and put it into the SD card slot over here. The SD card goes in upside down. So turn the machine on. We're going to take our PLA sample here. We're going to feed it through this little black box, the filament detector, into the Bowden extruder, then through the blue line until it stops inside the nozzle. When we get into the filament detector, we'll see the blue LED go on. We need to push this little latch here to open the extruder to allow the filament to go inside. We might have to twist around a little bit to help it get inside the tube. Next step will be to push the extrusion button, and when we push the extrusion button, the nozzle is going to heat up to 200 degrees. Then it'll automatically start trying to extrude. And carefully take the remaining filament and put it up on your spool holder. Let's try extrusion. We push the in button, and over here down at the bottom there's a setting. It can be low, medium, or high. I've got it set to low so we go nice and slow. And temperature is slowly raising. We're at 60 degrees now and climbing. You can hear the fan has started also on the nozzle. We're reaching 90 degrees. Okay, so now we've reached 200 degrees. Let's try to feed a little bit. We push the in button. Already it's coming out quite a lot. I'm going to push the out button one time so it doesn't keep leaking so much. Yeah, but should be very careful here. There we go. We have our first string of PLA. It's time to try the test print. Okay, so we've brought the camera in a little bit closer now, and I'm just going to take off using the scraper the extra filament sitting on the nozzle. And it's a little bit strange, but the colors turn to green. I don't think it's a special type of filament, but it's not white anymore. Maybe inside the nozzle was some grease, or some type of dirt or something left over from the factory. I'm going to feed in one more time. Okay, so now we see it's just starting to extrude a little bit. And we push the back button, go back to the main menu, and go to printing. And according to the instructions, we should be able to start printing now. We click on the preview picture where we can see the model. It says EN2 the Buddha. Then it says, do we want to print this model? And we push confirm and we hope for the best. It's loaded up. We have pause, stop, and options available. Now the heat bed is warming up. It's at 22 of 50 degrees. The ambient temperature is a little bit cold in the house. I turned the heater off to make less noise. We're at 30 degrees. So now the heat bed is warmed up. It's at 50 of 50 degrees. And the extruder is starting to warm up now. We've reached 200 degrees now. Printer's doing some homing. Hopefully the corner is not a problem. So now it's just laying down a line on the edge of the plate to get rid of any extra filament to make sure the flow is good. Looks like it's sticking good to the plate now. It's a little bit difficult to see, but it looks reasonable at the moment. We'll just let it go for a while, then we'll come back. We're about 10% into the print now. Everything seems to be going good. And it's interesting to note that the PLA is no longer green, it's now white as it should be. We're at 25% and I've changed lenses so we can get even closer. I've also added some bounce lights so we can see everything better. Okay, so just a little disclaimer. I bought this by myself after doing some research. I wanted a 3D printer, and I decided this 3D printer is a good choice, and I was not disappointed by that. This is my first 3D printer. The build was pretty easy for me, I would say. However, I do have experience building a CNC router. I started building a 3D printer before from scratch, and for my job I do work with industrial CNC machines, so I have some experience, but everything I did is included in this video, so if you think what you saw in the video was easy, I added some of my own advice on how to do the adjustments, then you're probably going to have an easy time too, and it should be pretty enjoyable, I think. So, thank you for watching the first video. If you would like to like or subscribe, it'd be really greatly appreciated. Hopefully we make another video, maybe some fine-tuning video or some different 3D prints. I'm in the middle of putting together a studio. I like to do a lot of DIY. I have a whole bunch of woodworking tools. I work on some renovations and some small projects. Also, we have the CNC router that does some woodworking projects. So step by step, we're going to improve the setup. Now, this is really bad in the middle of my kitchen. I did the best that I could for the moment. I really wanted to make this video as soon as possible and then move on to the next step using this 3D printer to help. Thanks for watching and come back next time.